Hey everybody. So the DraftKings Best Ball Playoff Edition just came out, and there's a lot of edge in this right now because people have no idea what they're doing. So I recommend you get in there as soon as possible and start entering some contests before people get smart. I've only been entering the $5 one so far just to test it out, but the $20 one has a $500,000 first prize. The key with this is based on 4 rounds: wild card, division, conference, and Super Bowl. That's it. Um, it doesn't start now. It doesn't start until the playoffs. So you need to be able to project who's going to make the playoffs, and then each round you got to have one of the two best teams. So you got to make it through the first round. But really, the key is the Super Bowl. You want to have a full team of players in the Super Bowl, which is 6 positions. I'll get into that here in a second, but let me show you. First, you need to figure out what teams you think are going to be in the Super Bowl. And you really want to go in there and stack one of them, possibly two, possibly more, depending on how you do it. But you need to have a position whereby you're going to have 6 players in the Super Bowl. You have to have that to win the contest. And I'll show you how many people are not even drafting those kind of lineups. But first off, who is going to get to the Super Bowl? Well, if you look at where it stands right now, it's actually fairly settled compared to most years in the NFL. I think you can pretty much say the Lions are going to get the bye. The Eagles are in. Then it's looking like the Seahawks and Bucks. The Vikings are in. The Packers are in. Then you have the Commanders. This is big lead in the wild card race, but the Rams are only a game behind them. Other than that, it's not looking real good. As far as who can make the Super Bowl out of that, I'm saying only the Lions and the Eagles. One of those two is going to make it. Possibly Minnesota or Green Bay. So I would really avoid any kind of stack of any other teams other than those. On the NFC side, the AFC side, the Bills have the path to. The Chiefs now have the path to the bye. The Bills are going to be in. The Steelers are going to be in, and probably going to win that division. And the Texans are likely going to be in. Then you have the Chargers and the Broncos in the wild card spots. These other teams are multiple games behind them. As far as who's going to make the Super Bowl here, I would say it's going to be the Bills, the Chiefs, or the Ravens. Then you could also say maybe the Steelers, maybe the Chargers somehow can make a run. But that's pretty much it. Then you have to look at how the matchups are going to play out. Right now, here's what the projections are showing. Broncos at the Bills. So the Bills are going to win that one. Chargers at the Steelers. That could be an upset. Ravens at the Texans. I would think now Lamar and the Ravens the last few years haven't done well in the playoffs, but if anybody's going to make a good run, I would say it would be them. I wouldn't count on the Texans at all, but that's up to you. Then in the NFC, and this is the Chiefs getting the bye. Okay. Commanders at Eagles, Packers at Seahawks. I think the Packers would win that. Vikings at Bucks. I think the Vikings will win that. The Lions. But again, I'm putting my money on that either the Lions or Eagles are going to reach the Super Bowl and the Chiefs or Bills. The last few years, favorite teams, among the 4 favorite teams, I believe, have made the Super Bowl almost every year. There hasn't been an upset team really in the Super Bowl. The Bengals, when they went into KC, did it. But in general, it's kind of teams you expect in the NFL. And again, you can look at the records here and all that. As far as the betting odds, the Lions 2.5 to 1 to win it. Chiefs 5, Eagles 5, Bills 6 to 5, Ravens 10. No other team is below 16 to 1. Then you have the Packers and the Vikings, Steelers, and then nobody else. So you really, as far as being the champion of their division, making the Super Bowl, which is actually more important than winning it. Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Steelers, Texans, Chargers. The other teams not worth considering. Really, you're looking to me, like I said, Chiefs, Bills, Ravens to me. NFC, Lions, Eagles, big favorites. Then you have the Vikings, Packers, Bucks. And then you can also look at who's favored to win the divisions. You can see the odds. The North is the only one that I believe is still up for grabs, really. because the Eagles are 70-1. Texans are 20-1. I'm sorry, the Bucks and the Falcons are still contention. I'd take the Bucks all day on that with how Cousins is playing. Seahawks, Rams. I think the Rams are 2 games back. This could be another one you could potentially play on. But I'm sticking with what is sort of favored right now because people are drafting so badly in this contest that the money's, you don't need to be perfect on it. So here's like one, for example, I just drafted. And again, you have to have 6 teams, okay? 6 players reach in the Super Bowl to win this. You got to fill a quarterback, a running back, wide receiver, tight end, and a flex. Okay? Now, in this contest, I believe only me and one other guy in this draft of 6 people that I just did, I believe only me and one other guy completed it. Now, this playoff drafting is tricky. This playoff basketball drafting is tricky. I mess up. Other people mess up. A lot of people have been doing them on Underdog, and it's very complicated either way. You have to be able to adjust on the fly, make projections, and keep track of things. But let me just show you real quick. This guy has Philly, Houston, Cincy, Minnesota, Detroit, Rams, Chargers, Arizona, Dallas, Rams. He doesn't have enough to make 6. There's no stacks there. This guy ended up with, and even though they're taking great players, they're not going to be, they might make it past the first or even second round, but they're not going to win this contest or even come close to making the finals. Buffalo, Minnesota, Green Bay, Rams, Baltimore, Atlanta, Redskins, Bengals, Broncos, Bengals, Seahawks. Okay, so that one's guy's out. This guy started off promising with the Detroit Buffalo. Okay, but then he got greedy and he let me take Goff. He took Williams. So then he went Detroit, Buffalo. But then he only ended up with one more Buffalo, and he has his quarterback is Daniels. He has no other pieces with Daniels, so it's impossible for this guy to win it. This guy did fill out a team. He's the only other one besides me. So he took Hurts and Brown. And remember, KC and Detroit are getting the bye. So you're going to have to replace those players to get through. You're going to have to add players to win the first round matchup to even let them start playing. So then he has KC. He took a Buffalo, a Pittsburgh, Washington, Philly, Buffalo. So he's got Hurts or Wilson, but because he started with Hurts and Brown, he's sort of banking on them. Then he also took Pittsburgh as a backup. But he's basically set it up with Hurts, Brown, Kelsey, Pacheco, Hopkins, and then Gainwell, if it ends up being a Philly-KC Super Bowl. He also has I think he has a backup with Pittsburgh, but not enough to actually fill a roster. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. No, he does. He has a backup of a Pittsburgh-Philly Super Bowl. So that guy's a smart drafter. This guy has KC, Baltimore, Detroit, Houston, Philly. He has a Green Bay. He won't make it. Now, in this one, I went a little different. I took Lamar in the first round instead of Hurts here. You could also take Gibbs is another good pick, possibly Henry, possibly Brown. But unless you think Minnesota's going to make the Super Bowl type thing, So I took Lamar, and I was hoping A.J. Brown would come back around, but he didn't, or Gibbs. So I took Montgomery. So I started a Baltimore-Detroit stack. Now, when it came around to here, there's a variety of ways you can go, but I decided to wait on Flowers. I just went ahead and took off. I said, fuck it. I said, maybe I'll make a Detroit stack. Let me see how this plays out. And this is preventing other people from having these. But now Detroit's on a bye, so I got to make sure I get through. So now I'm like, optimally, I can make a Detroit Ravens stack. So it comes back around. I take Zay Flowers. Comes back around again. Laporte is gone, who I would have wanted for my tight end. So I took Devontae Smith because here's where I start keeping. I use a spreadsheet I keep. I mean, you could do it a lot more complicated than this, and I do screw up. But you want to keep track of AFC and NFC and what positions you have filled in, and what teams and who has buys. Okay, so as this was going along, I said, well, I have Lamar, Flowers, Goff, Montgomery. I really need players. Right now, I'm aiming for a Baltimore stack most likely because the Lions players are gone. So I want to get players from the other conference who have a likelihood of making the playoffs. And then eventually you need to stack these too, or have enough Baltimore to make up the difference. Because again, you need 6 players. So if you have 4 Baltimore, then you would need 2 Minnesota, for example, that fill in the spots that they don't and have a realistic team. Same thing with any of these other ones. And again, like I said, I think it would be Detroit, Philly, Green Bay, or Minnesota. This one, I think it would be the Bills, big favorite, and then the Chiefs, and possibly you could say Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Chargers type thing. So anyway, I ended up taking Devontae Smith here because, again, Philly is one of my favorite teams are Philly, Detroit, Philly, Buffalo, and then KC and Baltimore. The KC guy went here, so I'm sort of looking at the NFC right now. I got an AFC base of Lamar and Flowers. So I need to make sure I get through the round. I'm kind of just seeing how this one plays out. Reed is a good pick. I took Hawkinson. You got to have decent tight ends. So I'm still. This was an unusual one because I've got a 2-2 and then 1-1-1. Comes around, I take Bateman. So now I've got 3 Baltimore. So I'm like, okay, I'm going Baltimore. Comes back around, I take Likely. And I've already got my 2 QBs locked away. So now I have 4 Baltimore locked up. And then I have Montgomery. So if the Super Bowl does turn out Baltimore-Detroit, I've got Lamar or Goff, David Montgomery, Bateman, Flowers, and Likely. That's not the greatest team, but it's something if you get there. Then it comes back around. Now here I'm like, well, I need running backs. I don't really care what division at this point. Okay. I need a good running back because Montgomery's not playing week 1. He's not playing week 1 of the playoffs. He's going to have the bye. So that's what the spreadsheet comes in handy. In this case, I took Najee Harris. I've already got my tight ends done. Comes back around, I go, well, running back or wide receiver, let me go Bucky Irving. Normally you want to go 2-3-5-2 in the DraftKings. In this one, I went 2-4-4-2 because there's one running back, 2 wide receiver, tight end, and a flex. But there's not as many. It depends on how it goes. Came back around, I took Bucky Irving. Tampa Bay is expected to make the playoffs. And they could win. Comes back around, I take Watson. So now I still don't have it really solidified, though. And so the last pick, I took Hill, the running back on Baltimore. So that does match up now. So I end up with a Super Bowl team of Lamar, Hill, Flowers, Bateman, Likely, and Montgomery or Goff. Not the greatest, but at least I have a team, and this could win. Okay, if Baltimore goes off, their pieces go off because it's not easy to fill a team full of Buffalo and Detroit guys. Okay, and you also have to deal with the bye. So I also have to get through this round. So getting through the first round, I have a team of Lamar, Bucky, Najee, Hill, Devontae Smith, Watson, Flowers, Bateman, Likely, and Hawkinson. So I have to hope that's enough to get through the round. Similar draft I just did. I ended up in this one actually ending up with a KC stack, a big KC stack, and then either any of these making it, probably Philly or Green Bay. So I start off with a Barkley pick, and then just the way it fell, I ended up with a KC stack. So realistically, the only way this one wins is if KC and then Philly or Green Bay. I would say, I mean, it's possible Washington, Seattle can come in. The Chargers, not in this case. But I have a hell of a KC stack if it comes through. Okay? So I have Mahomes, Pacheco, Hopkins, Worthy, and Kelsey. Plus Barkley or Kraft, let's say. That's a strong Super Bowl team. Now, the problem is KC's on a bye the first week. So I have to get through the first week. So I ended up taking a Washington stack here. Daniels, McLaurin, Robinson. Barkley with the first pick. Now, obviously I wanted to build a Philly stack when I took Barkley with the first pick, but they weren't there. But I have a really strong first-round team: Daniels, Barkley, JSN, McLaurin, Kraft, Robinson, and McConkey. Tight end's a little weak, but that's a pretty strong first-round team. So then the question is like if Washington's supposed to play at Philly, so that's tricky. So if they're out, then the second round I'd be down to, let's say Chargers lose 2, and I'd basically down to my KC plus Philly and maybe Green Bay team. Team I drafted before that, I almost ended up screwing it up, but I don't think I did. This is a pretty strong team. But you make mistakes every time. But this one I ended up with Detroit on one side and then Pittsburgh or Buffalo on the other. I believe that matches up. Yeah, because I took the tight end. Let's see. No, it actually doesn't because I took Russ instead of another piece. So this one is a Detroit-Buffalo, but it has a mini stack of Pittsburgh that could help get you to the finals. But then if I made it, I would be missing a player because I have 3 and 2. Russ wouldn't count. It would be Russ or Goff. But if it comes out Detroit-Buffalo, which is the most likely outcome, I have a team of Goff, Gibbs, Cook, Williams, Cooper, Kincaid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So that's my 6 right there. That's a pretty damn strong team if it comes out. And then to get back past the first round, though, because of Goff, Gibbs, and Williams are out, I have Russ Wilson, Freiermuth and Harris, Cook, Sutton, Cooper, Kincaid, Coleman. So I'm sorry, I also had Coleman on that stack. So I have a 7-player stack. The only piece I guess I could have taken a Pittsburgh instead of Dell, but I wanted to get through the first round. And the wide receivers here, Sutton, Cooper. So I got Dell and Coleman on there, Freiermuth and Kincaid. So this is a team where I took Gibbs first, then Goff, I believe, then Cook, then Cooper, then Kincaid, then Freiermuth, then Najee, then probably Russ Wilson, then Dell, then Coleman. This team, as you just saw, I took Lamar, Montgomery, Goff, Flowers, Devontae, Hawkinson, Likely, Harris, Bateman, Harris, Irving, Watson, something like that. The Chiefs team, I took Barkley, Mahomes, Pacheco, Hopkins, Worthy, Kelsey, all of them. They were just all falling, so I just kept taking the Chiefs. Then I believe McLaurin, Daniels, Kraft. Tight ends go quick, too, in this, and there is a tight end spot you have to fill. JSN, Robinson, McConkey, something like that. Or no, Conkey goes a little earlier because he's a strong wide receiver. There's not that many good wide receivers. There's not that many good of everything, period. Let's see, a team I built before that. Okay, so then the first DraftKings team I built, I finally got the first pick because it's only a five-man draft with a wraparound. So there I got Josh Allen. That's probably the best player. Barkley or Josh Allen's the best player to get, period. Because Josh Allen and Barkley are going to play the first round in all likelihood. So they give you that additional thing of being able to qualify for the next round. The Lions pieces don't, although they are really good to have, and then the Chiefs pieces don't, period. So I got Josh Allen, then Cook, then Shakir, then Cooper, then Kincaid, I think, or else Josh Jacobs, then Tucker Kraft, then McConkey, then Otten, Watson, and Charbonnet, and Gibbs. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Gibbs. I also have Gibbs. That's a hell of a team. Do I have Gibbs? No, I don't think I have Gibbs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I don't have Gibbs. That was on a different team, I think. I think that was who I wanted. It's 12-man team, 6 and 6. But you see how I try to get the other conference in there. Now, if this one comes in the Super Bowl, I've got Buffalo plus Green Bay. That's it. because I took the quarterback, that's something you got to be careful of. You have to fill out the 6. 1, 2. No, I'm sorry. No, I do. No, this one I do have. I have Buffalo plus Tampa or Green Bay because I have 5. I end up with a 5 Buffalo stack, so it's huge. But that's the only way I can win it. But as far as advancing, I mean, I've got a super strong team to advance. It just happened to fall this way. So if it comes out Buffalo, Green Bay, I've got a really good team. Allen, Cook, Jacobs, Watson, Shakir, Cooper, Kincaid, and Kraft. Pretty much nobody would have a better Buffalo, Green Bay stack than that. I mean, they could have Jaden Reed, but that's pretty much the nut team. So, I mean, I could show you a draft. I'd rather not show you a draft right now, but you can see how the board went. Now, this 2 quarterback quick thing is not normally what I would do, but in this case, I did it. And you got people taking like Jefferson. That's okay, I guess. Chase. I mean, he's the best player, but they're not. I'm a Bengals fan. They're in all likelihood not going to make the playoffs. Nico, Puka, unrelated players, and again, like I showed you, literally only 2 out of the 6 guys in this draft filled out will have a Super Bowl qualifying team. Now, if you just want to try to win your week 1 and maybe get your money back, that's a different story. But I'm going for the first prize, which in the $20 one is $500,000. So hopefully that's helpful to you. Again, you want to keep track of what teams are going to make the playoffs. Okay, you only want to, and if you want to pop in the Rams, Atlanta in there, or whoever, you can, and pop somebody else out, pop Denver out. But this, you only want to draft players from those teams, and then you always have to keep in mind the bye. And I don't think you need to go into the draft saying I'm going to take the Bills because it doesn't fall that way. But you need to have an idea of, okay, these are teams I think can make the playoffs. It can make the Super Bowl. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind that you have to win round 1. Round 2, I sort of say we'll let the chips fall because if you do have Lions or Chiefs and you're banking on them, well, they're going to play in round 2. So, that should take care of itself to some degree. It's getting past round 1. Where you do have Houston who can put up points, Seattle. I mean, if you look at these games that they play out like this, I mean, that's going to be hard for Denver to put up points in Buffalo in the winter. Probably hard for the Chargers to put up points. Houston, Baltimore could be a shootout. Seattle, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, Minnesota, Washington, Philly, those could all go either way. Those could all potentially put up a lot of points. I would say maybe the Bucks and Houston would be sleeper teams for just first-round points. But as far as who could actually win these games, these are actually road games, I think. But Green Bay and Minnesota are going to win those games. The Eagles should win that game pretty easy. Buffalo's going to win now. This is probably the most undecided game, in my opinion. Baltimore's going to win at Houston. I'm fairly confident of that. And like I said, I'm pretty confident it's going to be a Buffalo-Detroit Super Bowl at this point. Possibly Philly, possibly KC, but nobody wants to see KC back there again. All right, good luck, everybody. I recommend you get in these contests now because people are not – the most important thing is to make sure you have a 6-man roster for the Super Bowl, meaning between the 2 conferences, okay? Then second thing is to make sure you can win your first-round league, which is not easy. Only 2 out of 12 teams or whatever are going to advance. So, unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of these teams like we just saw drafted that might have really good players, but no correlation and no stacks where they're dead in the water. But that's the tricky part of this. But the fact that people are, 4 out of 6 teams didn't even draft a team that could make the Super Bowl just shows you. But again, it is complicated to do on your feet, especially if you haven't practiced them that many times. I think here were some underdog ones I did. Let me see. Yeah, where I ended up with a Hurts, Brown, Gainwell, Pacheco, D-Hop, and Kelsey. I don't think I filled in the other ones, but that's a 6-man team right there. This is a Green Bay Buffalo one I did. Love, Cook, Shakir, Watson, Coleman, Kraft. This was a KC Detroit one I did with Mahomes, Gibbs, Hunt, Hopkins, Worthy, Patrick. And then I think there was a team I didn't fill. Yeah, this one I didn't fill it properly. So it's easy to do because I had Goff, Williams, Patrick. Henry. No, maybe this one. This one I did. Goff, Williams, Patrick, Cook, Shakir, Kincaid. But the Henry, it's hard to get a double stack going with the single stack. It's hard to do. You can do it. I think Pittsburgh is a team that this first one I didn't fill it out. Or no, this one actually has one, I think. Let me see. No, this one doesn't. It doesn't have enough wide receivers. I see, like the first one I did, I ended up with Mahunt, Holmes, Kelsey, Schuster, Barkley, Gainwell, Coleman, Samuel. See, Coleman and Samuel are in the same division as KC, so this one didn't work out right. Then I had Williams. So I needed an NFC wide receiver, basically, to make this team have the minimum that it can make. It's got a lot of really good players on it, but it can't win. So anyway, good luck to everybody. Hopefully this give you some tips on when you're doing the best ball for DraftKings and Underdog for playoff.